Corey Jones was just a regular guy. He had a solid job as a housing inspector, was an avid drummer at his church, and was generally known as a peaceful, kind-hearted man. He wasn't someone you'd expect to find at the center of a deadly confrontation. But on the night of October 18, 2015, a broken-down car would set off a chain of events that led to his tragic death, shaking the nation and leaving his family searching for answers. Corey was driving home from a late-night gig with his band, The Future Presidents, when his car, a silver Hyundai Santa Fe, suddenly broke down on an exit ramp of I-95 in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. It was around 3 a.m., and Corey, like anyone else in his situation, did what most people would do. He reached out for help. First, he called for roadside assistance, hoping they'd be able to get him out of the situation quickly. But after waiting and not getting much help, he decided to reach out to one of his bandmates who had already left the gig. The bandmate drove back to assist, but despite their efforts, they couldn't get the car running again. With no other options, Corey decided to wait for the tow truck that was en route, planning to get the vehicle safely to a repair shop. Now let's set the scene. Corey was in a suit, fresh off his gig, stranded in the dead of night on a deserted stretch of highway. It was an uncomfortable situation, but not necessarily dangerous. At least, it shouldn't have been. Corey wasn't causing any trouble. He was just a guy waiting for help to arrive. But the events that followed would prove how quickly things could spiral out of control. At around 3:15 a.m., a white van pulled up, but it wasn't the tow truck Corey was expecting. Instead, it was an unmarked police van driven by Officer Numan Raja, a member of the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department. Now, Officer Raja wasn't in uniform. He was part of a burglary detail, so he was dressed in plain clothes, jeans, a t-shirt, and a baseball cap. His van had no police markings, and he wasn't wearing a badge. In fact, to anyone passing by, he would have looked like any other civilian. This is where the situation started to take a dark turn. According to Officer Raja, he approached Corey's car and identified himself as a police officer. But Corey's actions suggest that he might not have heard or believed Raja. Think about it. If you're stranded in the middle of the night and some random guy in regular clothes walks up to you out of nowhere, what would you do? Corey, like many people, had a concealed carry permit for a firearm. He carried his gun for protection, especially since he was often out late at night after gigs. When Raja suddenly confronted him, Corey grabbed his gun, likely out of fear and confusion, not knowing if this stranger was friend or foe. The situation escalated in a matter of seconds. According to Raja, Corey pointed the gun at him, and that's when Raja fired his weapon. But here's the thing. There's a lot of dispute about what really happened in those moments. Raja claimed he was acting in self-defense, that Corey's actions left him no choice but to shoot. But Corey's family and many others believe that Corey didn't even know who he was dealing with, that he was simply trying to protect himself from what he thought was a dangerous stranger. The shooting happened fast. Raja fired 6 shots in total, 3 of which hit Corey. He was struck twice in the chest and once in the arm. Those shots were fatal, and Corey was left to die right there on the side of the road, his broken-down car and cell phone just a few feet away. He never got the chance to explain his side of the story. After the shooting, Raja immediately called 911 to report what had happened. He told the dispatcher that he had just shot a man who had pointed a gun at him. But what he didn't know at the time was that Corey's phone was still connected to the roadside assistance call he had made earlier. The entire confrontation had been recorded, and that recording would become a key piece of evidence in the investigation. The recording paints a different picture from Raja's account. In the audio, you can hear Corey's voice, and it's clear that he was confused and possibly scared. At one point he says, "Huh?" as if he didn't understand what was happening, and then you hear him say, "Hold on," just before the gunshots ring out. There's no indication that Corey knew Raja was a police officer, which raises serious questions about whether Raja properly identified himself. The release of this recording caused a massive public outcry. People were angry and heartbroken. How could a man who was simply waiting for a tow truck end up dead? Corey's family was devastated, and they demanded justice. The case quickly became a national story, drawing attention to issues of police use of force, especially against black men, and the dangers posed by confrontations with plainclothes officers. The investigation into the shooting uncovered several troubling details. For one, Raja had a history of complaints against him in his previous job as a police officer in a different department. His conduct during the incident with Corey was also called into question. He wasn't following standard procedures for interacting with the public, especially in his capacity as a plainclothes officer. The fact that he wasn't wearing a body camera or using a dash cam also raised serious concerns about transparency and accountability. If it weren't for the roadside assistance recording, it's possible that Raja's version of events might have gone unchallenged. As the investigation progressed, public pressure mounted, and eventually, Raja was arrested and charged with manslaughter by culpable negligence and attempted first-degree murder. The trial was highly anticipated, with both sides presenting their cases to a jury. Raja's defense argued that he acted in self-defense, believing his life was in danger when Corey allegedly pointed the gun at him. But the prosecution countered with the roadside assistance recording, emphasizing that Corey had been confused and likely didn't even know Raja was a cop. The trial lasted for 2 weeks, and after all the evidence was presented, the jury took less than 5 hours to reach a verdict. Raja was found guilty on both charges, making him the first officer in Florida in nearly 30 years to be convicted of an on-duty shooting. The judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison, a rare outcome in cases involving police shootings. The verdict was seen by many as a step toward accountability, but it also underscored the need for broader reforms in policing practices. Corey's death left a lasting impact on his family, his community, and the nation as a whole. His story became a powerful symbol of the dangers faced by black men in encounters with law enforcement, particularly when those encounters are shrouded in confusion and lack transparency. Corey's family continues to honor his memory by advocating for justice and reform in his name, hoping to prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. In the end, Corey Jones was just a man trying to get home after a night of doing what he loved, playing music. His life was cut short in a tragic and unnecessary way, but his story has become a powerful reminder of the need for change. His death sparked conversations about the role of police in our society, the importance of accountability, and the urgent need for reforms that protect all citizens, regardless of race or circumstance. Corey's legacy is one of music, love, and a call for justice that will continue to resonate for years to come.